think we are in focus?
Yeah.
I can't tell.
No, it's tracking, so I put the track. It's facial tracking,
Okay,
so it
cool.
should be fine.
Sweet. Lovely. So I'm here today with Wolf.
Is it okay with the sun?
I think so. Yeah, it's fine. On the podcast Healing Childhood Sexual Trauma. This is quite an experiment talking about childhood sexual abuse and childhood sexual trauma in an open space. Okay. And we met yesterday at a cafe, and it was quite a cozy cafe in Amsterdam, and we really dove into that subject, and just the openness and freedom with which we spoke about it in a public setting like that, like reminded me of this dream I have of just normalizing these conversations and really showcasing, like creating content that showcases people discussing difficult subjects in regular public settings, so that next time when someone is struggling with childhood sexual abuse, really finding themselves feeling alone, and they go to a park like this and if they've seen this video, then their mind is open to the possibility that there might be someone else around who's literally talking about it, and just creates less of a safety of like, oh, no one's talking about it, I'm alone in this. So that's the whole intention of the podcast generally. Like, we are not alone. This is such a common phenomena. So let's do some introductions. I met Wolf under like really interesting circumstances. I had signed up for what I would describe as a street approach workshop. Like Wolf and his friend Elias had organized this workshop called Social Sati in Budapest, Hungary, and as much work I had done on like sexual shame, through all of my Tantra, Neo-Tantra workshops, I noticed that approaching a woman that I found attractive on the streets, like out in the open, still like triggered so much shame, so much unworthiness. And then when I saw this workshop offered on the subreddit Vipassana, it was quite, I wasn't expecting a workshop like that to be offered on the Vipassana subreddit. And then when I learned that, you and Elias were both like Vipassana practitioners, and I was just like, this is such a crazy idea. Like I have to do it. And then, in getting to know you during that week, I'll share a little bit of my experience in that. Like, I was beginning to get a sense of like a resonance with you, like an energetic resonance with you, which wasn't easy to be with. And by that time, I was 9 months into, maybe more, close to 9 months into the recovery of my repressed sexual abuse. And I had met enough such humans, or I'd had enough such interactions where there was resonance, but it was uncomfortable resonance, that I had a sense of what that typically represented. And then I remember we were having dinner one evening, and the way I remember it is I just like kind of blurted it out. Like I was just like, hey, like, have you looked into this for yourself? And I also remember it as creating some amount of like dissonance between us. And this was much before me learning tact around the subject and knowing when to bring it forth. And at the same time, I was, it was beautiful how you received it, like as my judgment, assessment, projection, and we explored that a little bit, like how much of it was like my projection, how much of it lived in you. And then this was a year and a half ago, and then we happened to cross paths again in Amsterdam 2 days ago, coincidentally, as I'm like diving into like the possibility of launching a legal case against one of my perpetrators. I've just been running into humans who I've had some kind of a connection around this subject, just serendipitously running into them. And you started sharing some of what you have explored since then, and that prompted, I was like, oh, we gotta, get onto the podcast, knowing how open you are about just right before is it okay if I share?
Yeah.
right before I met Wolf here at the park, Wolf was doing shibari with a woman like right behind there, and shibari is like Japanese rope bondage for those of you who don't know what that is. And it's quite a edgy experience to do in an open public setting, and kudos to you for just exploring it as a practice. And really it is such a beautiful practice, and people who have never encountered it, who do not have the kinky BDSM associations with it, like for them it is such a beautiful way to be introduced to it and have their own assessment of it, independent of what certain subcultures consider it as. So I was like very impressed, and so I'll pause there, and curious what has emerged in you, what you'd like to share in response to so far what I've shared, and then we can dive into it, and anything you would like as a part of your introduction.
I have been spending a lot of time learning about myself as a person, because I feel like there is a lot of things that I want to know about myself and discover why I do certain things, why I have certain behaviors, certain patterns that I keep engaging in, and then I tend to be curious about how that's affecting me, where is it coming from, how is it affecting other people in my life, how is it affecting my relationships, how is it affecting my interactions with people. And I've always been surprisingly interested in sexuality since I was very young. I had very unconventional fantasies when I was a teenager, which I felt really ashamed of back then. I was really confused most of the time about these fantasies that I felt were so extreme and weird, and I identified with those fantasies a lot as if I was a criminal or a bad person. And that journey, that experience took me on a journey to explore this on the internet and just start reading about it, like asking questions like, I have weird fantasies, am I bad? Like starts with that, and then I kind of like find my way to forums and people talking about their kink experiences, and then this whole sexual realm opens up for me and I dive into that. And I always had something drew me to this, like sexuality in general. And I went through a very long process of releasing shame and guilt and all these uncomfortable feelings that I would connect with this sexuality. And it was surprising how young, like I was in an early age that I discovered these things, that I became aware of my inclination towards exploring that, which is uncommon, I would say. And a lot of the things that I developed in my life, a very sensitive, like a huge sensitivity, really paying attention to my surroundings, the people's energies, always feeling a little bit unsafe, trying to really read people's feelings, trying to read people's moods so I could anticipate, because I felt unsafe in many situations. And so talking with you that time when we were in Budapest, it was a bit like shocking at first, because it was really like, I don't know, I was not prepared or something like that, and I tend to really absorb a lot of people's energy fast, and so I felt like maybe a lot of the projections that came over me all of a sudden, and I was like really confused, and then I had nightmares afterwards about the whole thing, and I was just like totally like out of my center, kind of. It was like a big energetic load that kind of like attached itself to me, and I didn't really know what's mine, what's yours, how do I respond to that. And after some time I let it go, because it took me like 2-3 weeks after you kind of like said that,
The nightmares you had were in those 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, also, like I told you earlier with the therapy sessions, that was later,
that was
but
later, yeah.
I had nightmares after you asked me, or you said I assume or I feel like something happened in your past, and
that was the first time you had
that was the first time. Yeah, exactly. And I was really like, there came memories of maybe my dad, but I don't know, and I was really worried, and I talked to my mom about this, and I felt like really scared to tell her that I was like felt that, and she was like, thank you so much for telling me, and I can also really assure you that your dad absolutely did not do that. And that really gave me a sense of, okay, I trust her, and I don't feel like she is invalidating my experience or something. She's really like kind of reassuring me, because I was really freaking out. Like I was really thinking, because my dad used to really hold me a lot when I was a baby, and like caress my back when I couldn't sleep, and I was like, did he went further than that, or was it really like I was really overwhelmed and scared. But so I went through that, and I talked to many people about this, and then I started to kind of like calm down again, and I let it behind me a little bit. I like didn't dive in again, and then like a year later, or I don't know how long is it ago. It was just recently, this March. This March is February. I don't know. It's 2 years since we met.
We met in September 2022.
Okay, so
it's like more than a year and a half.
Year and a half, yeah. So then I started working with a therapist who works with images and inner child, and so we there is a certain state that I'm in. She asked me what is alive in you, how are you feeling, can you give that feeling a shape, a texture, what images are coming up.
And why were you meeting with that therapist, just in general?
I was just I've been in therapy since I was 14. Okay. And I've tried different styles of therapy, like traditional psychoanalysis and brain spotting and somatic experiencing and these kinds of things. And a really good friend of mine who I trust like very deeply, she recommended me this therapist because she works with this therapist, and she said, maybe it's something for you, you can just give it a go. Because I'm always happy to learn or to experience a new form of therapy, because I know some things work for you, other things don't. And she was really like, she really was helped by this person, and I trust her and I admire her, so I think, okay, maybe this person can help me. And so I booked a few sessions with her, and she did really help me. Like, she was very, very skillful in what she offers, and it works well for me. This imaging, feeling, expressing what's going on. Like you as a client, you need to be a little bit in touch with this inner world in a sense that you can kind of verbalize it, and you can, you need to be kind of able to express your feelings and the images, because otherwise it's hard to work with for the therapist. So it works really well for me because I'm very visual and I can feel and I can express it, so it worked really well. And then one session I started to work with this feeling of shame and guilt, and we arrive at an image, a memory, which was in my body, where I was as a baby, and I was laying in a cradle, and there was this person that was coming closer, and my whole body responded with, I don't want you here, you have to leave. But this person kept coming closer. I still felt the same way. He doesn't belong here at all. He starts bending over the cradle, he starts touching me, and I remember thinking, no, stop, no stopping. He kept touching, and I froze, but I got so angry because I couldn't move, I couldn't say nothing, and when I energetically say no, nobody responded, so he kept just going. And I start crying in the session, and she brings me out again, because it was really like a panic attack in the session. So we go back to resourcing, and we wait, and she regulates my system again a little bit, and then we close the session. And that night I go to sleep, and I have like the most intense nightmare I've ever had in my life. It was again the same scene, the same person, and I felt this when his hands landed on my body. It was like burn. Like every time he touched me, my skin was burning like so hard, and this feel like so much rage. This feeling of stop touching me. You keep your hand. You don't belong here. It's not your space. Leave me alone. Like so much, but I couldn't do nothing, and he was not listening. And then I in the dream I dissociate completely. So I really leave my body and I fly above, and I witness the scene happening. So he's molesting my body, and I'm just floating, and I don't feel anything anymore. I'm just really. I can't do nothing in there, so I just exit. Basically, that's what it felt like. And after the nightmare, I wake up and I'm like so drenched in sweat.
Let's be with that for a minute.
Yeah, totally.
That's quite a potent piece that you shared.
Yeah.
I just wanted to land.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. That kind of full dissociation in the moment of memory recovery and seeing the whole scene, seeing myself. Like I can really relate to it.
Yeah.
And that was the first memory of sodomy that I recovered when I was 5 or so. I think I was 5. It's difficult to tell really.
Yeah.
I was floating here.
Yeah.
And I saw myself like bent over and like frozen. And I could also relate to the burning rage that you talked about, which interestingly enough for me wasn't present as much in the first memory recovery because it was my grandfather, and so I felt more of a betrayal or like how could you let me down kind of a thing. But in the second set of memories that I recovered it with his friend, and there I just felt plain rage because there was like no relationship, and everything that you talked about of like, this is not your place, who the fuck are you, why are you here, get the fuck away, like all of that, like I felt very resonant with, and wanted some space to just share that.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, and this feels like a very tender exploration, but because it stuns my mind. Like somehow I've like been able to wrap my mind around people abusing, like sexually abusing, prepubescent kids, teenagers, and both boys and girls prepubescent. I've been able to like understand from the perspective of the perpetrator, and that's part of been my journey. It's like what brings men or women to this situation. But I still can't like, it's unfathomable to me, like an infant in a crib, like what causes and I'm curious if you feel comfortable sharing like what you witnessed. Like, was he fondling your genitals, or what was this person doing?
He was just touching me, my whole body, and then he started fondling my genitals. So he started playing with it or something. Like, it felt like totally wrong, like absolutely not appropriate at all. But I have very vague memory of the specifics. Like, it's really just this energetic, it's get out of my space, and you're violating my physical body. And that's the memory I really had. It's not a detailed, super detailed, what exactly was he doing or something, just hands moving over my body in a way that's I really did not want.
The other thing I want to express is kind of a level of tenderness for your experience immediately after our first meeting.
Yeah.
I feel care, because we weren't in touch in those 3 weeks that you were going through nightmares.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, like since then, I mean, I've made this mistake 2 or 3 times, I think, and you were one of the people.
Yeah.
And every time I've made this mistake, it's almost lived in me as like, oh, but you surely know. Like, it's arised in me in a manner where it's like unfathomable for me. Like, or in that moment, I lose connection to the possibility that the person is unaware or something. So it's always been a surprise for me too. And at the same time, I feel just a lot of just tenderness and care towards, just your lived experience in those 3 weeks. Sounds pretty horrible.
It was very not pleasant. Very much not pleasant.
Some understatement, I suppose.
No, it was really really tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that, like, the terror that I experienced considering it was my dad, that was the worst. Like, the fact that I've had experiences like this, it's not what I wished for myself to have happen, but that it could have been my dad, that was just really really challenging for me to consider that. And then it was also a relief to, through therapy, understand it was not my dad. It was clearly a friend of his that's no longer his friend.
But you know the specific person
I know
now?
Specifically who it is.
Oh, how did you how did you
I mean, I like not for sure, because I never asked him or I never convinced, but the person came to me, like in the therapy sessions, it became clear that it's this person.
The identity came through.
Yeah, and he and I never really understood why, but sometimes he just tries to reconnect to Facebook. So he sends me a message on Facebook, and I always felt super weird when he did that. Like, energetically, like, leave me alone, man. Like, I just ignore his messages. But now I understand. He's just trying to, I don't know, for some, like, still connect. I don't know what it is, but it's so clear. But because my brother, he doesn't contact him, only me.
Interesting. It's really fascinating how it lives on, right? Even before you kind of recovered this, you had like a weird sense of like, oh, like, this person creeps me out. And
exactly.
And one of the other people I've made this mistake with, and I'm labeling it a mistake, and at the same time, there is parts of me that believe that this helps people if they can absorb it, and there are some humans who have the capacity to absorb it. Like, clearly, given where you are now, as horrible as those 3 weeks were, like, you absorbed it and you let it go fully, and then it came through in a different way. But still, I think I've mostly landed on, like, it's best to not ask this. Like,
I think
where
so.
I've landed. But one of the other people I've made this mistake with, and I'm going to share in anonymity, of course, is that just to kind of share another example of this theme of the body sensing something weird, is that she would feel really self-conscious about her breasts around this human being. In an inexplicable manner. Like, but it's like almost wanting to believe that she did not have any breasts when she was around this person. And it just kind of goes to show, like, I don't know, just like trusting your body's no. I feel like that's what the takeaway or lesson is for me. It's like trusting my sense of, like, creepiness or no's without trying to ask myself as to why, like trusting that there is some reason and not needing to know the reason to establish a no. And I feel like one of the biggest shifts for me in the last 2 years has been I just like hang out with people that I truly enjoy hanging out with, more so than I used to before. Before I would just like hesitate to say no, and now like even yesterday I feel like in our connection there was a moment where I was like, okay, I think this feels complete for today. And just being able to express that and not feeling shame about it or like I'm doing something negative. It's like, this feels good. Goodbye. I'll see you again. And just having that freedom has been so wonderful. I'm just going to do a time check. Okay. And I'm curious. I'm curious to get a sense, if you have a sense of this happened in February, you said?
Yeah.
So it's been like a few months. I'm curious if you can speak to any shifts that you have experienced in your life so far. And it's okay if you haven't, but I'm curious if there's anything that stands out as behavioral shifts or...
I mean, in general, I feel like it's nice to make sense out of a lot of things in my life in general, like the things I do, the behaviors I engaged in, some situations I tend to attract again and again, these kinds of things. It's helpful to understand what is kind of the reason, and that brings extra awareness around these things. So that's helpful. Also, the fact that I feel comfortable talking about it and sharing it, I feel like is helpful for others, because many people have such a deep-rooted shame and trouble speaking about it, and to meet someone who is kind of openly able to talk about it, it can allow them to also explore that a little bit more. So that's a benefit, I feel like. I feel also that I have less like anxiety around it or something, like it's more clear, like it's more in the air, in the open. It's more, I know it more. It's less of a mystery or something I'm not like really aware of or anything. And I feel like that's really helping me to feel just more safe in myself and understand that sometimes my body responds to a situation because of my previous experiences, and to acknowledge that, to be aware, okay, and to just breathe and say I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. That is really helpful. So in that sense, it has benefited me to work with this. Yeah.
And in terms of like being open about it, like have you who all have you shared this with so far?
I mean, my previous partner, I talked to her about this a little bit, not in full detail, because it was actually I discovered after we broke up, but there was already some awareness then. My parents.
You've told them the guy's identity too?
Yeah.
How did your father react?
Well, my father he hates this person, like he can't.
Already or since?
Before already also, like their relationship. Oh, we should maybe.
Yeah, let's take a pause and start again. Okay. So we're back here again.
Okay, so you were
sharing about your father's reaction.
Oh yeah. So I mean, the relationship is already not good. I mean, of course, like in my experience, it is this person. We never confirmed that. We never like talked to him about it. So yeah, they really banned them out of their lives.
Are you considering that? Are you considering approaching him and having a conversation?
I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. I'm just like, whether or not he did it, I don't feel like I have to set something straight or something like it. In my, like for example, I had once when I was in New Zealand, somebody beat me up in the night, and bad, like seriously bad. I had to go to the hospital and spend, like, I couldn't fly on the plane, like I had concussions, and it was bad. But there was no desire in me whatsoever to track down this person, to punish, like nothing. I'm just like, I'm so sorry for you that you need to beat someone up in the night. And I kind of feel the same way towards the perpetrator. Like, I'm so sorry that you need to do something like this. I am not angry. Like, in the feeling, in the moment, I am so angry, so much rage. But when I'm out and I can look back, I'm not angry at him, because also everything that I developed, that I learned, it turned me into who I am. I have an incredible sensitivity for people's physical boundaries. I think that's a gift. That's a beautiful, beautiful gift that I have because of that. And I'm not saying thank you for what you did. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that I don't hold any grudge towards him at all. I'm just like, you shouldn't have done that. It's not okay. And I'm really sorry that you did that. Like, if you're a healthy, happy person, I don't think that this is something you do to a child. Like, that doesn't compute in my mind, unless your brain is not working properly, or you are extremely deprived, or whatever it is. So I feel like there is no need for me to set things right. I forgive myself internally, I forgive him internally, and I move on. And I don't feel like I will gain something from confronting him with that, or I don't know. For me, it's really not necessary. I feel like it's okay that it's like this. And I work, because, for example, if somebody that abused you is dead or doesn't live anymore, what do? You can also not. You can make a ritual, but you can't directly confront them. So I feel like for me, it's not, for me personally, I don't feel like it's necessary to have that conversation with him. Maybe at some point, if it organically kind of happens, if I run into him somewhere and I'm like, I need to talk to you about this, but I don't want to, like, go look for him and no, leave me alone. And yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. It's like, it feels like you are in a place of peace and acceptance about it, and I'm also hearing, like, some amount of gratitude for knowing this, because it has helped answer. And you seem like a very curious human being, like, who wants to know the why behind things. And I'm hearing that partly, like, kind of recovering these, I would say, just like even having these, like, nightmarish experiences in the therapy container and afterwards, and kind of connecting to the parts of your body that hold that rage along the surface of your skin. And I imagine that the creation of that connection, irrespective of where that came from, who it was, even the creation of that somatic connection in your system allows you to bring more space to your own life when it gets triggered slightly in new settings, instead of perhaps forcing yourself to do something before you're ready. And just be like, okay, I think this is happening again. I'm just gonna breathe. I'm just gonna relax. And that aspect I can very well relate to. Like, when I landed here in Amsterdam, the first 3-4 days have been chaotic in my system. And yeah, I remember, especially after, like, meeting you yesterday, I had this, I was reminded again of, like, there's, like, pretty women all around, and why am I not approaching someone who I find pretty? And then it was helpful for me to recognize, oh, I'm actually not yet feeling fully embodied, landed in my system in this city. There is so much new things going on. Like, I need to just breathe and just take naps in my home and figure out groceries first before, like, trying to ask someone else out, So, and that for me is very different from, I don't know, 2 years ago, I would have been like, no, do it, Vignesh. You know, it's like that kind of an attitude. So that's partly where I feel reflected in your experience of like, okay, there's more spaces where you can allow yourself to just be like, I'm just gonna like fully breathe. And I feel that like somatically, just in connection to you too. The other thing I felt, this is like my trauma geek speaking. Yesterday when I met you, I felt a difference in under your eyes. Like there was an energetic difference I felt under your eyes, where the last time I remember meeting you, like I felt there was more like redness or something under your eyes, and this time I met you, it felt like reduced. And also, this is something I've been tracking for fun.
Yeah.
And when I meet people, I'm like, I track what the state of their eyes is, and to me, it reflects how much rest they're getting in their sleep, which for me is a heuristic of how comfortable are they with their shadows, with their darkness. Because in the night, once the dark hits, once we sleep, we swim through the shadowy realms, whether we know it or not. And if we do not have conscious awareness of our shadows, then our sleep is not as restful, because we are struggling in our sleep. So that has been my theory around like eye bags specifically, and I felt that shift in you even before you started sharing like the story. So I was like curious as to, it's an interesting shift that I'm noticing.
Cool, that's nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Is that something you've noticed for yourself?
I think so. I mean, it feels different for me. Also, when you met me in Budapest, I was a different person than I am now. I worked through a lot of things since we last met, and I feel that my sense of peace is dramatically increased over the last year even, because I allow myself to take the time I need in order for me to feel safe, and I give myself what I need in order to feel safe, which is a lot of time, space, awareness, compassion, kindness, slowness, and just really don't rush that process. The worst thing I find is to feel rushed in anything, and to give myself the time to not rush and to really just spread everything out and be calm, and that is so helpful. So helpful.
Do you feel comfortable being able to, I really relate to that, and I've been, one of the edges of growth for myself over the last 2 years or so has been really creating the slowness of that space with whoever I am. So not just when I'm with myself, but when I'm with someone and I feel things are going fast, just being able to speak up and be like, hey, like, I need to slow down a bit, breathe a bit. And I'm curious if you've had, if you have a sense around your capacity to create slowness for yourself versus when you're relating with someone and they're going fast, and how do you?
It's a great question, and it's something that's very nice to reflect on. I feel like, so I'm gonna bring a few pieces together in order to create some context, but I did some brain spotting certification, like a course. Brain spotting is just a therapeutic modality that works with positioning of the eyes, and you kind of fix an eye position with the pointer and you keep looking, and I just watch you and watch your body, see what's happening, and then your body naturally processes subconscious energy and things like that. It's a really powerful modality.
So the therapist locks the
eye position on a spot with the pointer. So I can scan your visual field, so I move the pointer, you track the pointer, and I observe your body for signals. And when somebody, maybe you get a little twitch and I hold the spot there, then there's a brain spot. And your system processes.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it's really fascinating modality. And so the me as a therapist, I need to watch and observe and wait. So I notice something, I hold it and I wait. Just wait. And the tendency to try and guide the process or to move it or to create something is huge. Like if nothing's happening, I can feel like the tendency starts to arise to want to change or want to rush or want to create something, but just wait, always wait. And as I experienced it myself, I did this therapy with my therapist, and from my perspective, the waiting, it's not like I am feeling I'm getting bored or no, it's a lot is happening. So the fact that the therapist is waiting is perfect. It has to be like that. So I feel calm and I can wait and I don't feel rushed. So because I've seen both sides, both the client and the therapist, this for some reason it was a very like powerful experience for me to know that waiting, it's always good. Slowing down, always good, because there comes space for something. So if I am now massaging someone, I'm a massage therapist now, Zen Tai Shiatsu, I am working with the body in a specific gesture, I wait, I go to another gesture, the movement, the transition between one to the other, I take the time. There is no rush from this one to that one. It's one movement slowly and I go other thing. And slowing down. If I move from A to B, instead of thinking I'm A, I go to B, I am A, I'm B, and then I'm B. You see, like not go from this to that, but go like that. And slow down. In a conversation also, pause. No problem. Take a break and we can go. It's so, we are so conditioned in this fast videos, fast this, fast that. And initially it feels weird to slow down. But once you make it a habit, you understand it feels so nice. And in the slowness, you have time to feel what do you need, what you want. I have a huge issue with boundaries because as a toddler, my boundaries were violated in the worst sense possible. So already there is so much fear, stress, anger associated with communicating a boundary. I communicate the boundary, but it's not happening. So I feel so much energy is charged. So communicating a boundary is difficult because I'm afraid I will feel the same if somebody doesn't honor my boundary. So I have a hard time putting up a boundary. And sometimes when things go fast, you're already beyond the boundary before you even know you are. So in the slowness, you have space. But do I actually want this? Does it feel right? Actually, no. Wait. Now, maybe yes. But I need the time. And that's so helpful to just apply that in my life everywhere. With myself, with another person. Is this okay with you? Can we move ahead? Do you want to wait? Do you want to go back? How do you feel? No need to rush. Take your time. Absolutely no problem. And that's so helpful to create a space where you can feel safe. If the rushing is there, it's stressful. And you can't feel into what do I need because you're stressed. But if you can just slow it down, no stress, what do I need? This. Cool. It's really helpful for me.
Yeah, like on that subject, one of the things I have noticed, I also really appreciate the slowing down. One of the things that I've noticed, in fact, I was considering including it in my comedy set. I'm planning to hit up some open mics here in Amsterdam.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know if you saw my latest one.
I saw some on your Instagram.
Okay, yeah.
Yes,
I uploaded
cool,
one on YouTube which has a bunch of like childhood sexual trauma.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, one of the things I've noticed myself getting caught up in is, thank you, is because I think I present this I can present this very empathic, I'm here to listen and I'm like listening to you with my whole body.
Yeah.
Like similar to you, I've also, developed a lot of sensitivity, trying to create safety for myself, not even realizing that I was trying to create safety for myself, but just being like hyper aware of like, who am I upsetting, and trying to manage everyone. That's been my past. And one of the things I'll notice in like one-on-one conversations, I think especially with women this happens, and this has been an active exploration for me around my wounding with my mother as to what it contributes to it, is that I will bring the pauses to the conversation, like silent pauses, but then they'll keep sharing more.
Yeah.
And the edge has been just actually being like, okay, I want to sit with that for a bit, like, be with that for a bit. And, partly it's become a part of my vocabulary now. And I introduced that in our conversation to us, like, oh, that's potent. I want to be with it. And yet sometimes it's a big challenge to. And you've read some David Data, have you? Yeah. And he talks about this a little bit from, not even from a trauma perspective, but just like an essential masculine feminine perspective of like the woman that is chattering about different things, and the man feeling overwhelmed with that or something. And I believe it's like a very common mother wounding that men carry. Like, I have that in me. And one of the things I've learned to do is like kind of breathe the words in that someone is sharing, instead of trying to focus like my head. I'm getting a cramp. Focus my like head onto what they're saying and kind of track and analyze. Because that feels constrictive. So instead, I'm just now like allowing myself to miss some words, or like kind of take it in with my whole body. And I'm curious if this flavor of challenge is something you have encountered, or has that not been your experience much? Specifically, like you also present a very, you could listen to anything, you're so open yourself. And I imagine if you run into these situations with women, perhaps someone you're attracted to, where they're talking about something and you actually feel sated, you want to be with it, but they keep going on to something else, and it's a challenge to then slow things down because they are not slowing down. It doesn't have to be with women.
I feel like I've never said what you said, like, I want to be with that for a minute. I have never said that to anyone. I tend to just let a person share until they're done. I've never really kind of felt like it was me. I don't know, like I can't really. Sometimes I feel, okay, it's time to like wrap it up now or something, and I still feel a bit of a hesitancy to because I don't want them to feel rejected or like interrupted in their stories. I want them to feel listened to, and if I say, okay, but I need to breathe or something, I would feel like it would be a bit confronting or like I'm still working on that. But I think that being able to be honest, it's super powerful. Just be like, wow, that's a lot of information. Can I have a minute to just like feel into this or something like that? I totally see myself do that, but I definitely need to work on. It's a very somatic experience when somebody's talking and it starts coming, this feeling, oh, it's too much, but I'm scared to say it. That really is, I can feel it. So I want to practice when it comes to be able to honestly reflect it quite fast, to not wait too long with saying, whoa, slow down a little bit. I can feel my body responding. Like, I would love to really practice this consciously, to be able to, in the moment, be like, oh, wait a second, not to disturb you, but my body is responding and I want to give it some space. Beautiful. And I'm reflecting on it right now during this conversation, so it's really cool that I want to bring it like
beautiful.
In a conscious way.
I'm happy to hear. There's, I mean, it's one of the things I've noticed in my journey has that there has just been so much more expansiveness of my vocabulary. Just like language. Like I will say things like, I'm dissociating, like give me a minute.
Yeah.
And it's helpful then to be with someone who knows what that is. You know? And more recently, and this is an interesting short segue into, you know, like, because we have both explored enough kink.
Yeah.
And there is a certain way of dealing with trauma that comes more from like the therapeutic healing lens.
Yeah.
And there is a certain way of dealing with trauma from the kink lens.
Yeah.
And there is a difference that I see, and this example will perhaps elucidate that difference. Is that, yeah, I've also like reflected to women that I'm attracted to, which is typically when this happens for me. It's like, oh, like I don't want to say stop because I like them, and I don't want them to not like me because I'm asking them to stop. And then it starts building up. Like it's almost like a panic in my system. Constriction, like throat constriction. And yeah, recently I was in kind of an intimate, you know, just kind of date setting with a woman that I'm very drawn to, and sometimes she'll start sharing, but I can sense that she's floating away. Yeah. Like I can really sense that she's dissociating. Yeah. This is a strong thing to tell someone, no? Like you're dissociating. Yeah. So it's, but I've explored that edge with her. It's like, hey, like I think you're dissociating right now. Like, and there's other different, like, again, tools. Like someone did this to me once. Like I was sharing something and I was floating away, and they literally like did this. Yeah. And it was almost like catch my energy that is floating away, and bring it back. Yeah. And it was so like wild because it felt like alive, you know, like I it really felt helpful. Yeah. But it was so, must have been, I imagine it would have been edgy for them to do something like that. And then with this woman that I'm with, you know, we've already had like a certain level of playfulness. Like I'll just like stick my fingers into her mouth. Yeah. I kind of like hold it. And she comes back, like, and she's reflected to me that it feels anchoring for her. Like, and we were on a phone call, and again I was noticing her float away, and I was like, I'm feeling this overwhelming. You know, sometimes when we've been together, I just put my fingers in your mouth. I'm feeling that overwhelming urge again because I sense that you're dissociating, and you know, it was. She asked me like, how do you know? Like, there was some like defensiveness, and then I shared like, it's not like I know. Yeah. It's a sense I have because I notice myself dissociating with you. Yeah. But I can tell that it's not my like something in my system. Yeah. I can sense that I'm joining you in the dissociation or something. But yeah, it just like opens up. I don't know. Specifically, I feel like the kink DS exploration has opened up these non-standard ways of relating, and I consider this non-standard because I can't imagine being in a therapy session with someone and then like thinking that like order, like, but you know, it is anchoring. It's like literally somatically anchoring. Like even doing this, like a regular Western therapist is not going to do that. They're just going to listen, and that has its benefit to some extent. But at the end of the day, we are helping each other like not dissociate. No? I feel like that is the crux of it.
Yeah, that's cool. I will definitely try it.
Yeah, I felt like if at all I would share it with someone, someone would try it, it would be you. So I felt very drawn to sharing both of these actually. I've been wanting, I haven't done this one yet. There's like other like somatic things that I've tried for myself. Like yesterday I had a call with my therapist and my dad, and it was a very edgy call, like 3 of us together, because my dad is like in semi-disbelief, sometimes he believes. And I could feel, and a lot of triggers come up for me when I'm talking about this with my dad, especially when he says something which kind of seems to not believe what I'm saying. Like he'll say something like, I believe that you're suffering, but I don't fully believe yet that you were raped or by this person. And that can be very challenging for me to hear from my dad. Some of my worst triggers right now in my life are with my dad. I'm not the only one, I'm sure, you know, in that. But yeah, in that call, I noticed myself like doing kind of just like swiveling my spine. whenever the something triggery would emerge, and I would almost notice like that energy would then like move up and spread out and release. Yeah, I'm curious if you've like discovered any such like hacks or tools or tips that have been working for you as you spoke about, you know, you've been creating more space for yourself to feel safe, and in that, you know, in that space there is also room for experimentation around what could make me feel safe. I'm curious if anything's emerged for you in that space.
I think just in general, checking in with my body is really helpful when I'm having a conversation. Like, keep my awareness on the person, but also have like 15%, 20%. How is my body making contact with the thing I'm sitting on? How is my chest feeling? Like, just have like in the background, like running an app in the background, like running, just checking in. That's like really helpful because it allows me to anticipate or work with the waves that are coming in my body, so I can adapt and adjust my conversation or my interaction with that person. That's like really helpful to just reserve some RAM for my body awareness. And in the beginning I was a bit scared to do that because I felt like maybe I would lose connection with the other person or I would miss things that they're saying. But actually it allows me to be way more present with them because I'm not, and it sometimes I forget, and then I can really notice. I had a conversation with a friend of mine not so long ago where I could feel we were talking and it's really head, and then all of a sudden we take a break, boom, oh shit, my body is also here. And to kind of try and connect, stay aware of the body as I'm talking, that's super helpful. That really creates like a ground, an element of groundedness, and that really maintains the stability in the conversation, and the resourcing in the body happens when there is awareness of its presence. So sometimes when it's a challenging conversation or a triggering conversation, it's exceptionally helpful in that case, because I can feel so much. I'm talking and I can, I want to go away or somewhere, and it's becoming high, okay, hold on, whoa, shit, heartbeat, yeah, okay, fine, heart is beating, breathing, my legs, I'm safe, okay. And then again, like super helpful, because if I don't, then it's easier to get lost in just saying something you didn't mean, or you're not really there. You're kind of in a story in your mind, and it's just sensations most of the time. Just sensations in the body. Okay, I don't have to act when this is present. I can give it some space and take my time. Again, slow down. Let your physiology respond, and then act accordingly, or with awareness. It's super helpful. Timer?
Yeah, timer.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Lovely. So yeah, we were speaking about some just somatic tools, and the way I heard you speak to it was almost as if applying like the Vipassana practice in a way in regular daily life. Like, you know, 20 to 30% of your attention is doing some flavor of body scanning.
Yeah.
Does that feel like it's translating from the practice, or does it have a different flavor the way you scan your body?
I'm not like necessarily consciously going in the same order.
Sure.
Like a Vipassana, it's not. I'm not like actively scanning. It's more like I'm bringing some awareness to specific parts of the body to bring me in the present moment. And then, especially when it's a challenging conversation, usually it's a lot solar plexus, heart, throat, this area. But it can be also helpful to just, you know, feel my legs or feel my body in different ways. But I'm not scanning it necessarily. Right. I'm just like keeping some mental RAM for anchoring me here.
Yeah, the thing that reminded me of was I've encountered some humans, like 2 or 3 men specifically, that I'm reminded of, where when I connect with them, speaking of keeping 20% of attention inside you and 80% on the other versus everything on the other. Like, I've encountered some men where I've noticed that it's almost like their entire consciousness and presence is like flowing out of their eyes into the other person. And I've seen this, I remember there was this like brother at an Ista training, and during the dances I would see him like scanning the room for women, and I could spot that because I've been in that place myself. And his attention had the quality of like, it was like, it's almost like his consciousness did not want to be in his body. It was pouring out. And I felt that in conversation with another recent brother, where as I'm talking with him, I can really feel like more and more of his like consciousness is leaving his eyes and coming into me, and it almost makes me want to do something like just kind of like just like push it back or something. And I think I had that too. I'm fairly certain I had that before I recovered my repressed memories. And my ex's mom used to say that I have big eyes. Like, that was one of the things she would say. Like when I would laugh or something, like my eyes would bulge. And the energetic flavor with which she would say that was, there was a little bit of an alarm in her system about how like my eyes were bulging. And again, it was that same quality of like something in that moment was trying to leave out of my eyes. And this again fits in the realm of like trauma geekery, like tracking trauma movement, and it sounds like a beautiful practice, like to just have, it like really keeps, like there are all of these ways that our consciousness can leak out, the cock, the mouth even, and the eyes, and how do we like bring it all back in so that everything that leaves us is like with conscious intention rather than leaking.
I think I just want to add to this a little bit, because it came to me. When you've experienced physical boundary violations, when you couldn't protect yourself, it leads you to feel extremely unsafe in your body. At least for me it did. And I wasn't aware. So all my life I was trying to escape my body through excessive exercise, through eating disorder, through drugs, through whatever. Conversation, other people. And part of the healing journey for me has been to come back to my body, to feel safe in my body, to feel at home in my body, to maintain a level of awareness of my body. During conversation, I would go in the other person because I was not safe here, so I need to feel safe in you, I need to feel safe in you, I need to feel safe in you. Very chaotic, very anxiety provoking. I never felt safe because I was always looking for safety in other people. And the more I work on feeling confident and safe in my own body, the more peaceful I am. And it's not a matter of going out of my body more, but coming more into my body. And I have conversation, I feel myself a lot. And I feel very safe, comfortable in my body. And I feel way safer because now I can go into you a little bit. I can feel you, but I don't become you. Because I stay here and I feel safe in my body. Before I didn't feel safe here, so I need to become you. But then I become something I don't even know, and I'm confused, and what is all this energy, and I don't understand. And now I'm like, no, this is me, my body, this is you, I can feel into you, but I maintain some sense of myself here. And that is super helpful. Super, super helpful.
Beautiful. Yeah, it feels... I feel just really grateful to cross paths with you again, firstly.
Yeah, wonderful, man. So
and
cool.
that we could do this. Like, this is the first time we've done this in a park. and just hear more of your story and how that has evolved. I'm curious. In closing, I would just love to hear your intentions for this year. Like, what are you calling into your life, and kind of close with a prayer for that from me to support your intentions.
Lovely, I appreciate that. My intention for this year is to find a consistent environment where I can teach, where I can share my experience and my knowledge, where people are excited to learn from me, where they receive what I teach, so they are not there against their will or because I want them to be open to receive it. And I would love to further deepen my personal healing practice. I would really love to offer my own style of a healing session, like involve everything that I've learned into supporting the other person fully, and to really feel secure in that. Because now, I know Zen Tai Shiatsu, it's taught to me by someone else. I know brain spotting, it's also taught to me. It's a therapy that I offer that I've learned from someone. I would like to slowly make my own thing and trust that it is supporting the person that I'm working with in my own intuitive flow, to intuitively support the person fully with all the tools that I've acquired, and trust that it is supporting that person. That's that would be my intention for this year.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm hearing like a desire for a consistent environment, like that stood out the way with which you spoke that, because I also know that from your past that you've been nomadic. So having that like consistent environment that supports you into stepping into your own intuitive healing capacity, tapping into all of these beautiful trainings that you've done, and not just the trainings but also you've spoken to, this is training you've done all your life to be sensitive to human beings, and just like being able to bring all of those gifts in together and offering it in a manner. And I also heard you speak to trusting that it would, call in the people who are meant to receive this from you willingly, in service of their own expansion.
Exactly that.
Yeah, it's super exciting to hear you phrase this, and I've always appreciated your entrepreneurial spirit. Like, there is a certain spirit in you of like, even as you were speaking to your intuitive healing capacity, like I felt your entrepreneurial spirit coming through. Even like coming up with something like Social Sati, it's like it's not an average. It's not an average container. It's such a unique intersection of it's whole. In a way, it brought in your like spiritual self. Like we would do like chant Om before every like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's like it's a very unique container. So I feel inspired by your entrepreneurial spirit and just the journey you've been on. And my prayers are for that this really consistent, supportive environment gets like set up and created for you to like really help you fully step into offering your gifts to those who are willing to receive those gifts. And all of this like happens, gently, slowly, with smoothness, with flow. Thank you for receiving my prayer so beautifully.
Thank you.
And, that's all for it today on this podcast, Healing Childhood Sexual Trauma. Really, again, grateful to have a conversation with another man. It's so meaningful for me, and to share this I feel like I share this deeply with you, this desire for men to just speak openly about their pain and wounding and rise, and not in a way that they're trapped by it, but like rise from it. So I'm grateful that you joined me today, and that's all today, and to more.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.